Miss Blanchard back with, here I'll scroll up, period 6, 1865 to 1897. We have a special guest star, Teddy. Say hello. Say hello, everybody. Theodore Roosevelt. Teddy, our dog. Okay, so just 1865 to 1898, the beginning of the time, at the end of the time period. 1865 starts with the end of the Civil War, but a lot of this does overlap with the Reconstruction period. So that tail end of period 5 and Reconstruction mainly deals or like focuses on like the reconstruction of the Confederate States back into the Union. Where period 6 then picks up with more like the financial part of like a larger national economy. Though we will find like issues with like African Americans and women kind of in both eras. So this is going to take us through this whole Gilded Age period into 1898, which is the Spanish American War. Which is technically covered in period 7. So in period 7, you have Spanish American War, World War I, World War II. But this takes us up until the Spanish American War. So populists and progressives are all in the next period, and this is really just like the economic parts of the Gilded Age, and then kind of everything else. But on those like shoulder periods, like the social stuff generally gets included in the other periods. Okay, so this is what we did at the very beginning of the year. I'm not going to go as in-depth into some of the notes as I did like at the review sessions in class, because it should be more recent review. It was all in your midterm. So here we go. Key concept. Oh, sorry, I should tell you. Looks like it's page 73 up here. And if you're looking, like if you have the printed out packet, it's page 66 down here at the bottom. That's the first page of period 6. Okay, so key concept 6.1, technological advances, large-scale production methods, and the opening of new markets encouraged the rise in industrial capitalism in the United States, and large-scale industrial production accompanied by massive technological changes, expanding international communications networks, and pro-growth government policies generated rapid economic development and business consolidation. I tried to make it clear at the review session that, you know, this is all the same industrial revolution. We call them usually the first and second industrial revolutions. The first one being kind of in period 4, running up to the Civil War. The second one starting at the end of the Civil War and running up till like the stock market crash in 1929. And this is where you kind of move from just cotton to railroads and larger manufacturing. So let's start here. With A. Following the Civil War, government subsidies for transportation and communication systems. I mean, we mainly in class talked about the transportation subsidies. That would be the Pacific Railroad Act, part of the Republican Party platform that Lincoln gets elected on in 1865. And that, sorry, I have a pop-up that's distracting me. Republican Party platform, and then the Republicans get to pass them while the Southern Democratic opposition is withdrawn and fighting the Civil War. So that's the Transcontinental Railroad Act that gives large land grants and monetary grants to the railroad companies. It's also the Homestead Act, because like we said in class, the Homestead Act gave land to people if they can improve on it for 5 years, or you could buy it for $1.25 an acre. Most individuals find it very hard to improve on that land in 5 years, so a lot of railroad companies or individuals buy it up for the cheap price. Individuals sell them on to railroad companies. That's speculating. If you remember, we did that in the beginning of the year. You're not sure if you're going to be able to sell it, but you buy it up, make the investment, hopefully make a big profit on it. Let's see, and communication systems. You do have like some investment in like the first telephone lines. The telegraph was already established. And said helped open new markets in America. And I think we'll see it on a later thing, but when it says helped open new markets in North America, right, you're kind of debating, you know, is this laissez-faire or isn't it, right? If government's giving subsidies to business, it's an argument that this is not a laissez-faire economy. But we'll see explanations later of why some argue that it is a laissez-faire economy. Okay, so B. Businesses made use of technological innovations. And we talked about a lot of them. Typewriters, newer, better sewing machines, electricity, and just there's a lot of technological innovations. Greater access to resources with the opening of the West. You get a lot more oil. You get timber and lumber, and especially the Pacific Northwest. And then mineral wealth, right? With all these gold strikes, and then eventually silver and copper, that gives us mineral wealth. Especially things like copper. You can't have copper wires for electricity and communication without the copper. So those raw metal resources are instrumental in building the larger economy. Goes on to say redesigned financial and management structures. So remember at the beginning of the year when we read Scientific Management by Frederick Winslow Taylor, right? Taylorism, scientific management, that would be one of those management structures. I think it talks a couple more down about some of the financial structures, so let's wait until we get down there. And then it says advances in marketing. They just began to market more to a larger national market with department stores, and I think your textbook talks about Montgomery Ward, where you could send in for something to have it mailed to you, because there's now national postal delivery service. Oh, hold on. We got a little... Okay, sorry about that. I think we're talking about Montgomery Ward, and there's now rural delivery service. So now catalog companies, use catalogs to people to advertise goods, and then you have large department stores and ready-made clothing, and all that's marketed to people on a national scale more. And then it says, and a growing labor force. Okay, I don't know, I didn't really skim through much further, but right, that's the immigration. Growing labor force is internal migration, is people coming more and more from the Midwest, young farm kids who you don't need so many farm kids to farm because of all of these agricultural innovations, but also international migration with the new immigrants, especially new immigrants from Europe, being the pizza bagels, Italians, Jews, and Eastern Europeans, and then in the West Coast, largely some Chinese until immigration's cut off with the Chinese Exclusion Act, and then the Japanese. And then it says, all of this led to dramatically increase the production of goods, right? And that's, second Great Awakening is this dramatic increase in production of all different types of goods. Okay, C. As the price of many goods decreased, workers' real wages increased. So that means if you're paid the same amount, but your cost of living goes down because of supply and demand, and I'm trying to think of what am I trying to say here? Oh my gosh, when you make a lot of something so the price goes down, I can't think. It's a 3-word phrase, and I can't think of it. Anyway, so you're making the amount of money, but the something of volume of whatever. You produce more things, so the price goes down. So you're still making the amount of money, but you have more disposable income. That's what real wage increase means. Provided new access to a variety of goods and services. So now you can buy more marketed manufactured goods rather than just having to make everything at home so much. It says many American standard of living. You see him, he's resting his chin on the keyboard. Many American standard of living improved while the gap between rich and poor grew. And that's, that's that Gilded Age idea of Mark Twain's, that, that is just excess, and you gild, and that's the rich, the idea of the Newport mansions and the mansions on Fifth Avenue in New York City, where it's just this excessive wealth. And then you have the Tenement Museum that we went to, where just terrible poverty at the same time. So then D, many business leaders sought increased profits by consolidating corporations into large trusts and holding companies. And that's, I think, what it was talking about up here, redesigned financial structures. So you have cartels, which is different companies working together in the same industry, largely for price fixing, like drug cartels. There's another modern day parallel of cartels. probably cell phone industry, quite honestly. But I feel like there was one we were talking about in class. Let's see. Lost my train of thought there. Thinking of cartels. My husband's obsessed. He thinks there's a yogurt cartel in northern New Jersey because all the yogurts are all the same price and go on sale at the same time. That would be a cartel. I just don't think it is organized. Anyway, so you have cartels, you have trust companies, and that's the vertical and horizontal. The vertical, there we go, and horizontal. Horizontal is where you buy up everything in an industry. No, I'm sorry. Horizontal is where you buy up everything in like one segment of the industry. So if it's a dairy farm, you buy up all of the cows, like in the United States. That's horizontal. Vertical, think of steps, right? That's how you go vertical. You buy up every step of the process. So very much for that, think of like Standard Oil. You buy the all the rigs to drill oil, all the oil transportation, like pipelines, all the oil refineries, and then even the outlets where you sell oil to customers. That would be vertical. So, and then you hold these things into trust, so people aren't personally responsible for it. You can form illegal monopolies, or I guess back then they were actually legal monopolies, because you don't personally own all of these dairy companies. You are just on the board of trustees, and maybe you're like the biggest trust holder, but it's owned by the trust. So then it says, which further concentrated wealth, and that's you have this real concentration of wealth and growing gap between rich and poor. And then E, businesses and foreign policy makers increasingly looked outside U.S. borders in an effort to gain greater influence and control over markets and natural resources in the Pacific Rim, Asia, and Latin America. So I don't think it really starts dealing with imperialism until period 7 in the key concept outlines, but there is, a little overlap here, because things like the annexation of Hawaii had its roots going, well into period 6, and I mean technically in the dates, the annexation of Hawaii is within those dates. That would be in the Pacific Rim. We're looking there and in Central America for railroad expansion. And this is all part of Turner's frontier thesis, right? Because in 1890, according to the federal census, we no longer have a frontier here in the United States. So now we're looking for other places to spread our version of democracy. But then, we're also looking for natural resources and markets, especially like Latin America. I'm specifically thinking of Cuba here, has lots of mineral wealth. But then we're also looking for markets. Fruit companies, the United Fruit Company we read about in class in the Lowen article, buys up land in Latin American countries, Central American countries, starting in this time period. But then we also, like I said, want markets. Okay. I think I'm going to stop here. Okay, so, oh boy, I got to talk fast in the next one. Okay, bye.